You had me at cello, cello. You had me at cello. You had me at cello, cello. You had me at cello. Good afternoon, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday. That means it's time for another episode of Cello Chat. Today, I have with me Christopher Pettitis. Christopher, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Benjamin?
I'm doing really quite well. It sure is fun what we do, playing and teaching the cello, isn't it?
I think it's just the best anyone could ever do. Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, terrific. Well, so for people who don't know you, can you tell us how did you get started on cello in the first place? What was your
Mhm.
journey from there to where you are today?
Sure. Well, I'm lucky. I have a very musical family. My grandfather was a pianist and organist. He played at their church for decades. And mom's a violist. He has taught public school, especially. Also does some viola lessons, violin lessons. I have an aunt who I'm close with, who is a clarinetist, has taught. So it kind of runs in the family a little bit of a family business. I started when I was young, and that was because I saw the Nutcracker, and I was like, I want that one right there. um, I just knew I loved the sound. Also kind of helped that, oh, you get to sit all the time for that one. That sounds good too. But of course my mom was like, oh well, if you keep asking, then we'll do it. She didn't tell me that, but and I kept asking. And so we got started. um and since I started, it's just been, I love the sound, of course, and it's also just turned into, later in life, it's a great relationship instrument, where you like anything with music, where you're building relationships with people, on the instrument and through audiences and all that.
All right. And your schooling was where?
So I went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and I felt that it was helpful for students for me to be the best practicing cellist. And so I did performance, but I also did music education. And so from there, I've then been working in the public schools. I teach privately, work through the Wheaton College Community School of the Arts. So a lot of different teaching things, especially. And um, also did my master's at U of I too in music education.
Excellent, excellent. And you studied, among other people, with Tanya Carey.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of Tanya's.
She is wonderful. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did. She was another one of the speakers at one of the Australian String Teachers Association, and then we
Mhm.
had her up for one of our cello days, and the materials she has are so clear. Um, so, any how we have this saying that we were taught the way we teach the way we were taught. What
Mhm.
are some of your main takeaways from your teachers that affect your teaching on a daily basis?
Yeah. Well, I started cello, and I took lessons from Carol Areda, kindergarten all the way up through the end of high school.
All
And
right.
so, what I'd say about Carol is she's super detail oriented, and she just has a method for every little piece of technique and every little piece of music. And she's got steps that she walks you, just these little baby steps on everything. So she's super detail oriented. I think I've got that from her. um, I started working with Tanya just a little bit at the end of high school. I was kind of taking lessons a little bit from both Carol Reda and Tanya Carey. Um, and then in college, I stayed in touch with her. And when I was home on breaks, I'd be taking lessons with her and everything. And then after college, when I was back here full time, I was taking lessons with her. So with her, and too with Dr. Carey, I took Suzuki trainings with her as well. And for her, it's all about setting everything up right the first time. And it's about, making sure we're not set up with tension. and you know, that's her whole idea. Cello playing is easy. So I definitely have stolen lots from her too on setup and just tension release and all that. Yeah.
Nice. And I'll bet that the detail approach of both of them is very useful in your public school teaching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, and then the Suzuki training. I'm so happy that this coming ASTA conference, this coming March in Louisville, is going to be held jointly with the Suzuki Society of America. I mean, there's so much room for cross-pollination between the two organizations. So I'm just kind of curious how, I know that a lot of people that I talk to who have Suzuki training say that even if they're not, you know, kind of literally doing, all right, here I am teaching a youngster with the parents there, but that after having had the Suzuki training, that it kind of affects your way of thinking and your approach to teaching in general. How does the Suzuki training, how do you think that it affects your teaching overall?
Sure. Yeah, my public school teaching, it's not a Suzuki program. Big ideas, parent involvement, ready to learn, you know, just the book Nurtured by Love. All those really impact, I'd say. I like to say that cello, or the others, because I'm an orchestra, not just cello. You know, I like to say that it's more than just cello. Cello is more than just cello, or orchestra is more than just cello. And so every lesson, and this is very Suzuki, you know, we start with, how are you? You know, how have things been this week? We do some social emotional work together, just conversations and getting to know each other even further, and you know, talking about how we've felt on cello through the week, and you know, I don't ask my public school students, you know, are you ready to learn now? You know, but that definitely is what I do and with Suzuki and my Suzuki students. So but a similar idea, and and then I think, you know, the parent piece of Suzuki, I think you pick that up anywhere with teaching kids, and but you know, I think it still relates of just making sure that parents are involved and they know what's happening. And you know, for example, public school, I send an email every Friday. It's called Orchestra Notes, and it's, here's all the things your kids are doing and amazing things they've accomplished. And so you know, that parent piece, and then I think anyone needs to approach teaching and approach children with love and wanting the best for them, not just on their instrument. So you know, I think that's all very Suzuki. Do you only pick it up in Suzuki? Of course not, but you know, it is Suzuki.
Nice. Now, what is your involvement with the Illinois ASTA chapter?
So I'm the membership chair. Not a huge position, but just with getting members enrolled and all that. So and also too, then it's just as, you know, a nice networking and a nice way to professionally develop and all that. Yeah.
Right. All right. Yeah, I think the two institutions should, I hope they continue to work ever closer together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, there's been a huge resurgence too in I'm sorry, the name I'm really bad with names. But with oh gosh, U of I, big study, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names, but you know, I think it's all about tension release and starting kids with making sure that and Tani, you know, had a bunch of experience with this too. I'm sorry, we can come back to this.
Right. All right. Let's see. Motivating students, and feel free if you want to answer this kind of like, well, with this under these circumstances, under these circumstances. Because, I know, for example, in the public school setting, it's at least probably somewhat different of an answer. But the idea that part of our job as teachers is to not just inspire, but really motivate the students to get the instrument out and sit down with it and spend the time that it takes to advance to the level that they know they want to get to. So what are some of your favorite, what's in your toolbox of devices when you sense that a student could use some motivation?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned earlier, cello's more than just cello. So it usually starts from there. What's going on and how are we? How's life? And I usually find that if a student is, not practicing as much, there's something else going on. That might be a life thing. It might be they're struggling in school with some things. It could be some mental health things. And so usually start from there. Usually then find that they really do want to, because we already have a rapport, a relationship built. They really do want to be at every lesson, well prepared, ready to go. And maybe we could chalk that up just like wanting to please me, teacher, please, But I do think that it really is truly they enjoy their instrument. That's why they're in lessons. That's why they're there. And so when we start having a conversation, it's from the frame of we want to keep making progress and do better, all that. So start with that, and then my expectations are, I think, pretty clear. I don't often, unless we're having a chat repeatedly about what's going on in your life, why are we practicing, that type of thing. I don't usually explicitly say expectations that are really super, like every lesson, okay, but what I do is I'll kind of make jokes about, oh, did you enjoy the other piece that you were working on this week and not want to do this one quite as much, huh? Things like that. I am super clear on what we should be practicing. And so just setting expectations, not like it's a ruler on their wrist and make sure you do but using humor then to follow up with, did you work on this as much as we had planned, or I find that humor kind of diffuses they don't get too up in their head about it, and then they say, okay, this week I'll make sure I do it. I gamify things. That's a common thing for teachers. I would say that I'm not a super like gamey type person where I don't spend hours outside of lessons figuring out games. But what I find is that that if you say something as a game and you create some type of reward or competition or something, it doesn't matter what it is. You can come up on the spot with it, So let me grab something real quick that I did on Friday even. I even just, came up with a student with how many times we're going to play this little nugget that's been hard recently. How many times we're going to do this? 14. That's what we came up with. So, most of the times, because 14 times, well, that's a lot of times. So what I did was I just started putting lines on here, and I added a line here, and I added a line there, and I put a line there, and I just kept adding lines to this piece of paper. And I'm not an artist at all. But the student was looking at it like, what on earth are you drawing? Adding one line at a time, and by the end it was like, oh, that's a dog, but that's a really bad dog. But they wanted to get to 14, so all the lines would so
good.
Just on the spot, kind of turning things into fun and making it so they want to get to the end of whatever we're working on. So lots of that. Like I said, I make sure that readiness is there. So If we're not ready for cello or ready for this or that in cello, then we just don't do it. We'll do something else entirely until we're ready. And that goes back to the relationship and the social emotional that I start with every lesson. So, and then I think too that just external versus internal motivation. I aim for making sure that if a student isn't enjoying something, um, my forcing them to do it, if we can come back to it later, great. But otherwise, I want to make sure that they're internally motivated to do whatever it is that we're working on together. I find just making sure that they know that I'm comfortable. They tell me that they're not into something. I'm cool that I'm not going to be offended. And then 90%, 95% of the time we're doing stuff that they really just want to do, because they tell me if they don't want to. So.
Okay. Hey, Christopher, were you trying to think of Paul Roland?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
And
At first I was thinking that you were talking about somebody who is there currently, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, my thought was there's been a huge resurgence and they've been doing a ton of workshops on Roland and everything. And so I think it'd be really cool to have some more partnership in the Suzuki Roland world. And then also with ASTA too. I know that Tanya, for example, she was a Roland trainer in a school implementing as part of that research study that Roland did. And I know that she uses a lot. And we've had even conversations about the fact that she, when she's Suzuki training, doesn't always explicitly say that a lot of it's Roland, but a lot of it is, and I know other places too. So I think it'd be really cool to have a lot more, integration with all those organizations and methods. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see, on your website, I have to say I was impressed by a couple of things in particular. One of them was that you seem to, maybe you did this even before COVID, but you embraced the technology of figuring out how to record various things and line them up and put them up at the same time. You have your studio all playing various parts of some Christmas carols. Were you technology savvy before COVID, or do you just roll up your sleeves and train yourself how to figure it out?
I've been tech inclined. Yes. I was extremely lucky. I was working on my master's before COVID even started. And then that first summer of COVID, they offered a lot of music technology classes. It just so happened because I think a lot of people wanted it. So I was online working with professors at U of I on some different tech things that summer. Really lucked out with that because while I was inclined towards technology and integrating in a few different ways, I could have picked it up, but it was really helpful to have someone just guiding me through more, So yeah, I'd say during COVID, I spent hours and hours and hours on some of those projects. But also students and their families were just so happy to hear people playing together, even if it wasn't in the moment. And they just felt really proud, about it. So for someone not working on their masters, as it so happened during COVID, and who just wants to get more into it, I'd recommend, seeing if you could just take a course or something. Doesn't have to be U of I, but from somewhere in that music tech area. And then also too, I've seen, I can't give you a name or something. Again, I'm bad at names. But I've seen some people who are cognizant of the fact that there's a desire for more of that learning and have offered just like separate professional development type seminars or just little workshop things. So, maybe looking around ASTA, looking around the Suzuki conference, I bet you could find a few people. I've seen it even just advertised on Facebook, So
Yeah. Yeah. And then what was another thing was that one of the videos of you playing all the parts, did I gather that it was also your arrangement?
um not exactly, no. I just took an orchestral arrangement and then just took it all down onto the cello. That's all.
Well, but still,
um
that takes some wherewithal to know how to do that.
uh yes, and you know what, that was actually also a class project. It just was, like, I had a ton of fun with it, but it also was one of those projects to just get us doing it. um but um but yeah, and I'm not a big YouTuber or anything, but I've noticed that that video has just had a lot of people going through it, and it's a lot of, especially students. And I've had colleagues tell me like, oh, I showed this video because they just love seeing it. um and so it's been a huge motivational thing mostly. Yeah.
Great. That's great. Well, yeah, I mean, definitely one of the overarching things that comes across from your website, I guess maybe the way that you put it in there fairly early on is just that you enjoy playing all types of gigs, all types of settings. And you definitely come across as somebody who's not afraid to figure out another role for you as a cellist, wear another
Yeah,
hat,
yeah.
whether it's related to technology or arranging or things like that. This entrepreneurial attitude that, I mean, really benefits us a lot when we are, we know that we're passionate about music and we're passionate about teaching, but more doors can open if you have a willingness to explore new things. Would you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One big thing that some other colleagues of mine, even my mom was working on doing this. Over COVID, something that I did was I just contacted all the local teachers and said, "Hey, right now they're not getting their normal instruction. This whole Zoom thing where you're teaching them over Zoom, that's wonderful that you're putting all that time and effort. But also, it's hard to learn music over Zoom." And so what I said was, 2 free lessons, send some kids over, and we'll. And that's something that other people do, but it was truly just intentionally, hey, like, send the kids over, they'll get a couple lessons. I'm happy to do it. I'm donating my time. Did I have some students? I had like 25, 30 students who just we did a couple lessons together. I had a couple who even stuck around then, and we've been doing lessons for a long time now. But I think it's really cool to do that type of thing and just give back to the community that way. And then you know I know that other teachers have done it outside of COVID even, and they've really built up studios from just getting to know students that way. And does every kid end up with their studio? Absolutely not. But also, that's a really just good thing for kids. Um, so that's one little nugget of gold that some people have stolen. Yeah. And I think too, that's just part of my personality, trying to try new things and do different things. Um, I uh I like to think of myself as sort of not to toot my own horn, but like a Renaissance man, just like trying some new things. And if life wants to take me this way and I'm interested in that, then I'm gonna go do that stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And to what you were saying just before, I think there are a number of youngsters who, but for just trying a lesson, I mean, they don't know, well, a lesson, what would that consist of?
Yeah.
Is it just more of the person on the podium telling me just things that I'm supposed to take notes about, or until they actually try a lesson and see the interactive, well, have you ever tried that this way? Let me show you how I'm doing this and everything.
Yeah.
That is great to give more students an idea of just what that is, and some, I'm sure, to get a taste of it they realize, oh yeah, this is really how I can advance like a
Yeah. Because I know too, a lot of public school teachers send out the mass email of, hey, lessons are a great way to get ahead and, all that. But even families too. Like one of my studio things is I have families, they have to have a family member present at all times.
Mm.
And part of that is as a male teacher, especially, I feel like that's just safe for kids. And but also too, I think that the family member being here and just seeing everything, like they they learn a lot, and it's a great relationship experience with their student. And I know a lot of colleagues who, especially Suzuki, they have the parent there, but then around middle school, things start to get a little harder with having the parent there and stuff. And what I've found is that I've had students who are just butting heads so much with their family members, and we give it a couple years, their parents still coming, and by the time they finish high school, they have a really good relationship again. And I've had some students and families tell me, cello is a big part of where our relationship is at now.
That's
So
very cool. That's very nice.
yeah.
Hmm. Very good. Let's see. So upcoming projects, what irons do you have in the fire for the remainder of the 23-24 year?
Well, it's not in music specifically, but I am doing doctoral work. It's in curriculum instruction, actually.
All right.
A lot of people take that into want to do administration. I'm purely just there because I love it and want to be better for students.
Great.
So I'm doing a lot of work right now on that, and fingers crossed, taking exams, hopefully starting dissertation very soon. I've already started some chapters,
Wow.
but
That's
officially
great.
starting. And that's going to focus on, we've had some, for teachers, for educators, some societal hardship right now, some of it with COVID, but it's kind of a long-standing hardship with teachers and just education in general. I don't mean that teachers have it hard and I'm just, sob story or anything. But there have been some hard things. So it's going to focus on discourse in the news and all that, and seeing how we're talking about education, talking about educators, talking about other stakeholders too, parents and all that. And then hopefully from there, after doing that study, kind of looking at what can we do better as a society to make sure that in education we're talking about it in a way where it's positive, and we're including everyone in that conversation, because education is important not just for the kids, and a lot of it is we want to make sure kids are set up for jobs and all that, but it's also just important as a society democratically. So it's going to focus on that, not music specific, but hopefully the next year or so that'll be done and y'all can read about it.
Super. Well, best of luck with that.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks so much, Christopher. And
Thank you, Dr. Whitcomb. Benjamin, I'm sorry, I know.
by all means, yeah.
It's been fun chatting.
Well, terrific. It's been my pleasure too. And to everybody out there, happy practicing all week long. We'll see you this time next Friday. Take care.
You had me at cello, cello. You had me at cello. You had me at cello, cello. You had me at cello.